and welcome to our special board meeting. Thank you again for being here. We're going to open up our meeting and we're going to call our meeting to order. 1.1, Pledge of Allegiance. 1.2, and Dr. Volkemer, if you would lead us in the pledge.
It would be my honor. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 1.3, approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and second, and we will now take a vote. Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina? All right, and Gwen Rogers, aye. Thank you, motion carried. We are now going to move into 2.0, 2.1, closed session. Are there any closed session public comments? Or are we gonna move that down, Dr. Volkemer? Right here?
I don't have any closed session public comments. Karen, just double checking.
No, because we had no items on the agenda.
Okay. All right, so board, we're going to move out of this meeting and we're going to move into closed session. And to our public, we will return shortly. Made it.
Dr. Hill, I think you need another picture.
Oh,
When you-
Dr. Hill, move down your.
No, but when you're on, when you turn off your camera, you got a picture like you laying down on your hand. You should be working.
Oh my God. We are back. Thank you for your patience. I believe I have a quorum back. Let's see. I see Dr. White. I see I heard Mr. Tillman. There's Mr. Gallo. Okay, great.
That's my new normal.
Okay, we are now at 3.0 public comments. We have received public comments, and this is the time that the members of the public are provided an opportunity to directly address the board about topics listed under this board agenda only. This is the time that the members of the public will be provided an opportunity to directly address the board about items described under the closed session. You will have 5 minutes or less, and they will be read by a facilitator. Karen, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Uh-oh, let me turn that down. Something is up really loud.
All right, are you ready?
Do you have two phones on, or your computer and your phone?
What's going on?
We're getting a lot of feedback.
Harold, put yourself on mute. Dr. Volkemer.
Someone's, okay, Karen, you want to try that again?
Sorry. I think it's me, but I don't have anything.
Make sure you don't have 2 sessions up, Karen.
Let me
Make sure
double
you have-
check.
Correct. That's what it sounds like. Your phone is on or your computer's
Look
on.
on your computer and see the tabs at the top or the bottom. Make sure you don't have, there you go. You cut one of them off. So you're probably okay now.
Yeah, it was me. I'm having a bad tech day today.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, the first two are related to the budget. And the first one's from Fiza Dean. And they just say, at SBCUSD's cost, provide barbering, retraining, tools, license fees, and job placement. The next one is from Mr. Alfredo Aguero. And he starts out by saying, I want to request that a program be implemented that puts subtitles in Spanish in all the presentations of SBCUSD, since the lack of participation of the Spanish-speaking community is due to not understanding what is spoken here. Okay, and then he goes into, my name is Alfredo Aguero, and I'm a community organizer in the area of special education in the Inland Empire. My comments are a complaint about the bad way in which the last presentations of the LCAP meetings were carried out on 5/20 and 6/10 of 2020. Because many people are not given the opportunity to access these meetings due to the complexity of finding the link to participate, and participation is only to listen and write our questions through chat, questions that are often not answered or simply ignored. I also let you all know that the LCAP presentation of 5/20, this presentation was only given for almost 1 hour of the 2 hours scheduled, canceling the presentation without prior notice and without giving the participating parents the opportunity to ask questions or comments. I hope you do not take as an excuse the problem of the COVID-19 pandemic, for the reason that at other meetings, such as the 6/16 board meeting where my comments were not read, the SBCUSD district unfortunately does not give acknowledgement of receipt of public comments. Okay. My comments in section 6.1 is because they do not mention anything about the money paid to the law firms hired by the district to litigate the cases of special education students. I'm interested because these firms are used to deny services to students, also to intimidate and retaliate against parents for advocating for their children, and at times to intimidate other members of the community just for advocating for both special education students and their parents. I say this knowingly, since one of those people is me. All of you are aware of this because I have attended SBCUSD board meetings on several occasions to let you know everything that happens in other committee meetings that exist, such as CAC, DLAC in the SBC-USD district, and nothing is done to find a solution. To the contrary, what they do is retaliate against us for bringing this to the public's attention. I also want to tell you that any amount of money that is in your budgets for expenses with the police department be reconsidered, because I think, like many of those who commented in the meeting of 6/16, that this money could be used in supporting programs and other alternative programs for students who are at risk of entering the court system, the school to prison pipeline. And that was it. The rest are related to the reopening. The first one's from Ashley Beatus Alcala, president of the San Bernardino Teachers Association. Tonight, the district will be presenting to the board a recommendation from the cabinet on starting the year with distance learning on August 3rd. SBTA's first priority in reopening schools is the safety and well-being of all employees and students. Bringing any groups of students back to campuses at this time requires the district to ensure that the proper PPE has been acquired and other safety parameters have been put in place in order to ensure the safety of everyone on campus. It is also important for the district to continue to work in collaboration with the local public health department due to the fact that COVID-19 has not gone away, and we are still seeing alarming daily increases in cases of the virus in San Bernardino County, including the county being placed on the state's watch list. Due to these current factors and the fact that we are starting school on August 3rd, and in order to put our safety first, it is imperative that the board affirm the recommendation of starting in distance learning on August 3rd tonight. Thank you for your time. Next one is from Barbara Marpong, a parent. My son has special needs. Wearing a mask is impossible. Because he is autistic, he doesn't understand social distancing. What are you doing to guarantee his safety during the pandemic that seems to be increasing in our area? What measures will be in place in the classroom? My biggest concern is that another child or his teacher will infect him, and he and my other children will bring it home to the rest of the family when all of us have been successful so far in sheltering in place in order to protect them. The next one is no name, but it's regarding the parent survey for reopening. The parent survey is requiring a number for the school name. How does this produce the actual data for what parents want? Where do I find what number my student's school is? It states which SBC-USD school will your child attend in the 2020-2021 school year. Then the answer requires a number. Next one is from a staff member. I am concerned about my elementary school reopening in person due to the coronavirus. Arizona just shut down again for 30 days due to the rising cases. San Bernardino and Riverside County seem to be on track to do the same, and the 4th of July hasn't even arrived yet. It does not appear that the majority of people are following the guidelines to wear masks, social distance, or not visit one another. I'm afraid that after the holiday, cases will rise massively right as we begin our reopening. While children seem resilient to the illness, although the virus is still changing and that could no longer be, myself and my colleagues are vulnerable. Will we have greater options to do more remote instruction? Would it make more sense to keep the fall semester remote until a vaccine arrives in October or through January? Okay, next one is from a teacher. Teachers are people too. We have lives and families whom we want to protect. We sign up to teach and serve students, not to get sick. When will our vote be taken into consideration? We are not test dummies. This is not an experiment. This is a matter of life or death. We can never go back to normal in school, nor can we simply force our way back into what we were used to. It's not safe, nor is it equitable. The economy is not more important than the teachers' lives. I repeat, the economy is not more important than teachers' lives. Parents having a daycare is not more important than teachers' lives. There are literally a million questions that have yet to be answered, but we're just going to continue with business as usual? No. Teachers need to stand up and say no. Next one is from Jessica Ruiz, a parent. I am concerned as a parent of a student enrolled in GATE that he is not receiving proper fundamentals for his future education. I want my child to succeed, and I know it will be implemented if he was in a physical environment and not a distance learning. My suggestion would be for more portable classes, as they have been sold for just $1 for a school grant. Furthermore, this will lead to more job opportunities for teachers and also allow education to not be withheld, as this is a crucial time for young learners to grow. If possible, give parents an option to send their children to school, and others that have concerns of the COVID virus to refuse based on their preference. Thank you for your time, and I'm hoping for the best plan for our future leaders. The next one is from an elementary teacher. Ladies and gentlemen, the novel coronavirus is a pandemic. I repeat, a pandemic. It is unlike anything any of us have ever experienced, yet it is not being taken seriously enough by everyone. This is obvious in the fact that California is seeing more positive cases now than ever. Officials are attributing the rise in positive cases to gatherings in homes and say to avoid gatherings with people outside of your home. Here we are in summertime when the virus was supposed to decline, but California has yet to show a decline in positive cases, and we have yet to flatten the curve. We have no idea what typical flu season will look like. The risk of getting sick is still very real, yet many people are behaving as if the virus is no longer a threat to us. Too many members of society are not complying with social distancing and face mask guidelines, and many people refuse to wear masks. Yet plans are being made for teachers and students to physically return to school. How can anyone expect teachers to enforce all the necessary safety protocols and teach in person, especially when there is so much controversy over the safety guidelines with the general public? Teachers have no way of knowing what others are doing outside of their classroom and have no way of forcing students to wear masks and physically stay away from each other. With a typical class roster of 33 students, the majority of classrooms are too small to accommodate even half of the students at the recommended 6 feet distances. Students in primary grades and those with special needs require a great deal of physical contact with teachers. How can teachers be expected to deal with those situations safely? There is no guarantee that we can keep staff and students from coming in contact with the virus or getting sick, regardless of all the planning that is being done. Just as there is no guarantee that everyone will implement or follow the guidelines to the same degree. For many years, students all over the world have successfully participated in online virtual homeschool programs. Virtual teaching can be done very effectively. Rather than spend so much time planning on ways to return to schools in person, why not spend time on planning for a successful virtual teaching and learning school year? Time, resources, and funds should be focused on getting electronic devices and internet access to students and teachers. Planning should focus on helping teachers create the most effective and successful virtual curriculum possible. No one knows how the virus is going to act in the coming months. One thing we do know is that staying home and keeping our social circle small greatly reduces our chances of getting exposed to the virus and becoming sick. We all would like to be able to return to school and have life get back to normal, but without any guarantees that I will not come in contact with the virus while at school, I am not willing to risk the health of myself, my family, or my students to do so. Health and safety are paramount. Thank you for your time and consideration. The next one is from a community member. I find it odd that SBCU SD would have this meeting in private to protect themselves from COVID-19, yet the district would consider fully reopening schools when 285 children in the United States so far have the multi-inflammatory disease linked to the virus. The children need their education, but it won't do them any good if they come down with the illness. Pushing through this disease at the cost of human lives is appalling. The next one is from an elementary teacher. As you plan to reopen schools, I would like to know what plans you have for teachers that do not wish to physically return to in-person teaching at this time. I, for one, am not willing to risk my health by returning to the classroom. According to the World Health Organization, the worst is yet to come, and the coronavirus pandemic is speeding up because some countries aren't taking it seriously enough. Since California has begun to reopen businesses, we have seen the greatest increase in positive cases, and it terrifies me to think about reopening schools. Until there is scientific evidence-based guarantees that I will not contract COVID-19, I do not plan on returning to my school site. I do not have any confidence that everyone will follow the safety guidelines to the same degree. A perfect example of this is when I had to go to my school site for end-of-year procedures. While I was cleaning my classroom, the custodian entered without a mask and started asking me questions. I was extremely uncomfortable. I will not allow myself to be put in that type of situation again. I know that there are probably teachers that don't have a problem with returning to in-person instruction, but I hope that you will give options to those of us that do. Thank you. Next one is from a teacher. Please, please do not feel pressure to bring thousands of people back in unsafe situations. There are many classrooms that are small and crowded with no windows and no air, that are unimaginable environments to be in with COVID-19 everywhere. I can't even imagine the panic for the teachers and students that have those classrooms, but I know that they exist. I've been in them. This comment form is incomplete. Please add the agenda points here for better, more specific responses from the public. Denise Williams, a parent. I would like to continue distance learning for my students until COVID-19 is over. Next one is from Janet, an employee. For employees who have a respiratory or breathing problem or weakened immune system, how would you recommend or require them to return to work when it's deemed safe to do while through this COVID uncertainty? For employees and students who have breathing problems or asthma and find it difficult to wear masks and face coverings, how will this be possible, and what are you recommending for students and staff? Thank you for all the information, and I know it is hard making decisions through the ups and downs of this awful pandemic, and I give you all much respect since I know you want the best for all. God bless you all. Next one is from Maria Naher, a parent. Is there another option for my children that doesn't require them to go to campus, especially right now with the COVID? That's my main concern. I would rather have them homeschooled. Next one is from a parent. I suggest high school and junior highs get classes through Zoom as they would if they were in a regular school schedule, and to hour per class, just let them rotate through Zoom. We are not ready to start normal school. It is dangerous for our students and staff. Also, what will be the consequences for those students who will cough on purpose on another student and staff? Next one is from Stacy Roberts, parent. The kids must be able to return to school campuses for education mask-free with normal hours. We as parents who are working are not able to work a full work week, learn all the things that our child is learning, and help them further their education. Distance learning is not helping to further our children's education because as a parent, it's been years since I was in school, and frankly, I don't really remember much. Distance learning is not like a classroom. The teachers are only available 2 hours or less a week. They put assignments online, and if I as a parent don't know the content, I literally have to read it and learn it to help my child do it the way the teacher is requesting. As a parent who is also a main source of income for my family, I really don't have the time to do this and work full time. I want my child to get the most out of his education. Our kids need that interaction with the other students and teachers. They need to learn in a group setting. There are reasons many of us do not homeschool our kids, and some of us are just not cut out to do it. Please bring our kids back to school full time. Preschools keep the same group of students with the same group all day, and the teachers wear masks. This could also be an option that would help the kids succeed with their teachers. I am not opposed to sack lunches in the class and outdoor play being shifted around so only one class is in one area at a time. Kids also need to return so the parents can work. Please consider the thoughts of working parents. Most of us who work full-time feel the same way. We want our kids to return to school with normal hours. The next one is from Mrs. Flores, a parent. We have one child in SBCUSD and 2 children in another school district. The other school district emailed us a survey about the reopening of school back in late May, early June. On July 26th, the other district sent an email to parents detailing the when and the how of reopening this year. School will begin for them 2 days after SBCUSD is scheduled to begin. As parents, we appreciate knowing the plans for at least 2 of our kids. I do not understand why this district has waited so long to gather the information from parents and staff needed in order to decide how this will work. How are parents supposed to plan for this? At the board meeting last week, it was stated by Dr. Monarez, I believe, that surveys would be sent out by mail to parents this week. In fact, I believe she said they would be mailed out today. Now in the document entitled 2020-21 School Year Reopening, it says that parent surveys will be sent out July 6th with a due date of July 13, and hope to have gathered all the information by July 22nd. School is set to open on August 3rd, leaving very little time to figure this all out. It seems this district has just waited too long to get all the information it needs in order to make the best decision for students and for parents. I would also like to note that as a parent, I would really like to know how teachers are feeling about this. Do they want to get back in the classroom? Are they concerned about their own safety? If schools do reopen, are there strict safety guidelines in place to protect them? What about teachers who are in a high-risk group? If I choose full distance learning for my child this year, who will be in charge of her education? How much extra work will be put on the teachers to provide learning for both students in class as well as those who choose distance learning? How will this affect their ability to teach effectively? There are just so many questions for concerned parents and teachers, and there seem to be few answers coming from the district. The next one is from Deidre Hall Howard, parent, guardian, San Bernardino community member. Good evening, school board members. I thank you for allowing me to address the board this evening. I have a lot of questions as well as concerns with the 2020-21 school year. First off, if as parents we select for our children to do distance learning, I feel your teachers should be held accountable to be online with their students for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time. I found this to have happened a lot over the past few months. And yes, our kids were the ones who suffered while our teachers were paid. Second, is there any way to offer our kids any extra tutoring online? Third, is there any way to try a 4-day school week like some of the other districts are proposing? Lastly, listening to the last board meeting, it was mentioned that no parents were involved or surveyed. After speaking with several parents in my community, as well as myself, I can honestly say we were never contacted. Once again, thank you. Next one is from Zachary Smith, a parent. Good afternoon, board members. 2019-2020 was the first year my student was enrolled in the district and attended as a first grader. The distance learning was challenging and at times flawed, but we tried our best to get her work completed. Now, after reviewing this 2020-21 draft and seeing the options are really only blended instruction or distance learning for now, I am concerned that we are going to run into the same issues, such as the work given to students being difficult to access or complete due to the type of format that it is put in online. Also, there was no guidance for parents with the homework assignments, and there were several times we had to go online and Google how to instruct our students, as we were not taught the Common Core way growing up. Out of the 5 weeks towards the end of the school year, when they started to meet with the teacher as a class, the most that the students met was 3 times a week, and each time was less than an hour. For 2020-21 school year, the AB 77, in the AB 77, it is noted that documentation of daily participation in person or virtual. A student who does not participate in virtual learning shall be marked absent for the school day. However, considering we are in a household where both parents work, we will not be able to do any schoolwork with our child until we get home, which means our child will not be able to do any face-to-face or virtual classes at all on the days they are not allowed to go to school. Does that mean our child will be penalized because they were not able to do work during the day with their class and had to wait until after school hours to do any work? Will caps be available to our students on the days they are allowed to be on campus? After looking at all the recent board meetings regarding reopening, I've never seen nutrition being brought up. Will students still be able to receive meals on the days they are not physically at school? And if so, what safety health measures are going to be implemented for that? Is there a tentative schedule to what days the elementary and middle school grades will be attending blended instruction? I know you are working hard to plan things out, and I appreciate your time. Have a good day. Next one is from Anthony Johnson, a parent. Good evening, board members, Dr. Volkmer, and SBCUSD staff. First, I would like to thank you for all your hard work during these trying times. As a parent of 2 students currently enrolled, I have many concerns regarding school reopening. Safety is always a priority for our children, but the reason I send my students to school is to learn. According to the Education Trailer Bill AB 77, distance learning shall include quality and rigor of grade level instruction equivalent to in-person instruction. This is yet to be seen. One of my sons attend Richardson Prep High, and during the first run of distance learning, all his Google Classrooms were optional. And when trying to attend a Google Classroom, most, if not all, were canceled because teachers were not present. Work was always assigned, but no instruction was available. How is this equivalent to in-person teaching? As his 8th grade year approaches, I am fearful for what is to come. If distance learning or a blended model are the only options going forward, how do we ensure our children are receiving the best education possible when there was no accountability prior? I realize these are uncharted waters for us all. Nevertheless, our district's #1 priority should always be to provide high-quality learning experiences for our students. Your own reopening guidelines list this third behind ensuring health and safety for all, which are truly things beyond anyone's power. Yet as a district, you do have the power to provide a high learning experience for our students. Presuming that this school year will be a distance learning model, how do we guarantee our students receive an education equivalent to an in-person school day? The Education Trailer Bill AB 77 lists numerous services to be provided for our students. However, who will be verifying that everyone is receiving these resources so our students do not fall behind in their grade level standards? I know this is a work in progress, yet as a school district, I believe all decisions should be made with educating our students first before finalizing any decision. Thank you for your consideration. Next one's from Leonardo Peñalosa, a current student. My question is, if school is still set to start on August 3rd, what precautions will be taken to keep students safe? Like some students go some days and the rest another day. Will students be required to wear masks since sometimes classrooms are full of students and not big enough? What will happen to the 6 feet apart rule? Thanks for your time. Next one's from a parent. I would like the option to continue distance learning for my children until a vaccine for COVID-19 is available. Next one is from Lori P., a parent. Good evening, board members. Today I noticed under the board members website on previous questions from parents that were answered by the district, and the question I asked was answered and stated, teachers are working hard to work with the individual learning needs of a student. At this time, aides are not supporting RSP teachers. Seeing this makes me have concerns about this coming 2021 school year. Students that fall under specific learning disabilities with an IEP, those RSP students are in regular general classes. RSP students need as much support from their aides too during this distance learning. Especially in high school, these RSP students need to graduate. I know general teachers don't work with the individual learning needs of a student during the distance learning. Not once last semester did our child receive any calls or emails from general teachers to see if she was understanding the class assignments they posted. If you could please have aides support RSP students, case carriers, and general teachers for this coming school year. My last concern, are teachers going to actually teach students during distance learning and not just post assignments for students to do? Like I stated last semester, all students would benefit from teachers YouTubing themselves actually teaching the assignments, so all students can refer back to the video if needed. Thank you for your time. Next one is from a student. I would prefer to continue distance learning. Although we would all love to return to school, it is simply too difficult to control such a vast number of students, staff, and all the variables that accompany that. For distance learning to be successful, I think that a more consistent and stringent schedule for the school day should be enforced. I would also like to have daily contact with my teachers via Google Meets. In a perfect world, all the guidelines released by the state would be effective, but this is not that. It would be safer for all involved to stay in their homes and continue learning that way. Next one is from Cammie Phillips, a parent. Schools should reopen as previous years, no masks. If parents have any concern with in-person education, they should be given information about schools that will be only online. Staff can stress themselves out more with trying to enforce social distancing, but let the kids get their mental health back. Again, if parents don't want their kids at school, keep them home. Find another means of learning from home. Some kids need to be around others for their mental health. Distance learning is killing the mental health of our youth. The school board should be ashamed. Next one is from Sylvia Johnson, a parent. Good afternoon. I am a parent and employee of the district. It has been difficult to navigate the district website as a parent trying to obtain updated information on what is going on. Either the links don't work or I have to go on different platforms such as Facebook to find information out. It has not all been in one area. Also, some of the forms that have been used for parents are difficult to understand or ask for information that is difficult to find even as an employee. For instance, today the sbcusd.com/opening link went to a form for parents to choose their preference for educational programs for the 2021 school year. There is a question that asks, which SBCUSD school will your child attend in the 2020-2021 school year? As a parent, I wanted to type the name of my child's school, but it wouldn't let me. Instead, it wanted the school number. I'm an employee and I didn't know what the school number was for my student. So how is a parent supposed to know where this information is or where to find it? And the form would not let you submit your answers unless you answered that question. It was another hurdle to deal with to provide information to the district. If possible, can you have a parent try out these forms before they are made available to the public to avoid frustration or lack of participation? And when it comes to the meetings that the district has had to get parents' opinions, like the one they had on YouTube, is there a way so that parents can ask questions while the meetings are live, even if that means we type the questions while the host is speaking and they can respond during the meeting, so we can get answers to what is being discussed? The meetings me and my husband attended, we were left with many questions and no one to answer them or direct them to. We really want to collaborate. However, it feels like our voices aren't being heard when these meetings are one-sided with the host just speaking to us and we are unable to respond live. Please help us. We all want the best for our students. And lastly, my heart goes out to these families who have no one to watch their students when school starts and distance learning begins. We are on the path of having a lot of latchkey kids, which is truly unfortunate. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to speak. I have one from an anonymous. What consideration will be given when presumed ill children have to be isolated and a parent or guardian is unable to pick up from school? What consideration will be given if the presumed ill child is a bus rider? And my final comment is from Roxana Cervantes. Very good afternoon. On this occasion, I address you, the SBCUSD board, to highlight 3 points that concern me greatly. 1, that the interpretation given to the public comments of the Spanish-speaking parents be the appropriate one. I have taken the time to listen to what I have done on previous occasions and allow myself to say that they take out of context what I am trying to express in it. Likewise, I would appreciate it if the Spanish meeting was offered at the same meeting without the need to use more than one application or device function. 2, as a mother, I express my total concern that parents have real participation in the needs assessment and decision-making of what would help our children improve their educational, social, and emotional environment. For this, I suggest that support be increased in recreational, cultural, sports activities during and after school hours. Productively busy minds for children and young students of all ages. And 3rd, although I know that we will be given some updates today for the reopening of schools, I ask that you always put the safety of our students, teachers, and families first. Let's not make hasty decisions that we will regret later. I'm sure that as families, we try to understand and support this difficult work as much as possible, but it is important that we all be taken into account and that there be flexibility for those who are most at risk for this health crisis. Hashtag all means all. I appreciate your attention and wish you have a blessed week. And that is all the comments that I have.
Thank you, Karen. And of course, again, Dr. Volkermer, I know that you have access to all of those. And again, it's very important. That will help further answer additional questions that we've already received from our parents tonight, inclusive of what we're doing in the future of the school opening. So thank you for that. We are now going to move to 4.0, 4.1, 2020-2021 school reopening.
Thank you, President Rogers. Board, as you know, we've been working on this issue for quite some time, about 8 weeks now, and it's been a very fluid situation. Lots of moving parts. As you heard from our public comment this evening, there are strong sentiments on a range, on a continuum from bring all the kids back immediately to don't bring the kids back at all. And so we're trying to navigate that and be sensitive to those many needs. I did want to say very quickly, by the way, that 2 of the public comments this evening talked about a glitch in our survey where you were to put the school name in. That has already been corrected. We apologize for any confusion that caused anybody, but that has already been corrected. So in terms of getting ready, last week we asked the board and you graciously agreed to solidify our start date of August 3rd. So the when has been decided, and tonight we're asking the board to pin down the how and what our programming will look like. We've been monitoring guidance and budget trailer bills, and you'll hear some additional information that you already heard in public comment about AB 77 specifically. We met with the interim director of public health yesterday and got some clarity on what the role of DPH will be in terms of how our programming runs. And I also sent you an advisory today regarding a CASBO update on the intent of trailer bill legislation. We'll give you some of that as well tonight. So tonight we want to provide some responses to your questions last week about our readiness to start in a distance learning mode. And then we'll review some guidance and give you our recommendations in terms of solidifying. You heard lots of questions in public comment tonight about, we just want to know, we need to know what's going to happen. And we want to button that down tonight if we possibly can. So I want to again thank Rachel and her large work group for moving through this, synthesizing a mountain of information into a coherent recommendation. I'll turn to Rachel at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Volkermer. So thank you, Board President Rogers, Vice President Wyatt, Board, Cabinet, and Community. Once again, it's my privilege to update the board and community on the progress for our 2021 reopening of schools. We always appreciate the feedback from our community and the public comment. It gives us an idea on what is getting out there accurately and maybe some misconceptions. So thank you, community, for letting us know. Board, the order of the presentation was revised from what was sent yesterday. So if you printed yesterday's presentation, the content is the same, just the order has changed briefly. So I apologize for any confusion that may cause you as you go through the presentation with us. Next slide, please. So we have 2 primary objectives. We want to update you on the 2021 school year preparation. Specifically, we are going to go over the San Bernardino County COVID cases. We're going to give a summary of the Education Trailer Bill AB 77 that you heard referred to in the public comments. And then we're also going to give you an update on your questions around our readiness for devices and connectivity, and where we are with gathering data from our families and our employees around preferences. And so you'll see that coming up in the presentation. And then at the end, we're going to ask the board to either confirm, modify, or reject the recommendations we're making for the 2021 school year learning environment options. Next slide, please. So board, just to recap what happened a week ago today, so on June 23rd, you did confirm that we are to open schools on August 3rd, and so that gave our first direction on what we're doing. You also asked that we continue to provide additional information at board meetings for as we learn new pieces of information coming from the state or as we finalize guidelines, so we will continue to do that. And you directed us to gather preferences from each individual student and staff member. And so we're a district of close to 50,000 families and over 7,000 staff members. And we're in the process of that. It's taking a bit longer than we would like, but we are, that is happening. And Dr. Volkemer mentioned the survey that's already gone out to start collecting that. Next slide. So these continue to be our reopening guiding principles. We continue to look at and work on ensuring health and physical safety of students and staff. We have to continue to adhere to federal, state, and county guidance, and doing all that while we work to provide high quality learning experiences and provide safe and accessible working conditions for the employees that are under our care. So these continue to be our guiding principles as we work through this very complex and ambiguous in many times work around reopening schools in a very different manner than any of us have ever experienced. Next slide. So board, this is what we call our driver slide. I'm going to come back to this at the end, but during this presentation, we're going to paint the picture of why we believe at this time it is our recommendation for SBCUSD to open in a distance learning model. And I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about that, and prepare to enter a blended model tentatively scheduled for September 28th, but as we monitor guidance and coordinate with county public health, we may need to push that back. And in addition to a distance learning model moving into a blended model, we are still recommending offering extended distance learning options for those families who are not interested in a blended model. We did have a conversation with the county public health officials yesterday regarding these recommendations, and they are in support of these recommendations. And during this presentation, we will explain to you why they are in support of it and why this is our recommendation at this point, given our current context in San Bernardino City. So I asked the board to allow us to go through the data that we have in here, and then we'll come back to the recommendations for you to accept, reject, or modify. On recommendation number 1, board, in the past we were calling 1A, I'm sorry, we were calling that a soft opening, and I think that was confusing people because of the term opening. And so what we're recommending in beginning the school and distance learning model is to, when it is safe to do so, we would bring students in for in-person connecting, so face-to-face in small numbers, only when it is safe to do so, and that would be deemed safe by our work with county health, and then we would bring that to the board for final approval before we would move forward with bringing any student on campus. But this idea of bringing students in during distance learning would be to focus on our youngest learners, students just starting a particular grade level, going into middle school or high school, or any child that we know needs an additional check-in. Again, we would not move too quickly on that. We would make sure that the board was supportive of that before we move forward in bringing anybody in. So we are changing the language. Soft opening was leading to confusion. We're not trying to confuse people. We're trying to create spaces by which students are checking with or working with their teachers and teachers can connect with parents while offering a distance learning model. So I'm happy to answer questions on that at the end when we get to the actual action step for these recommendations. So again, we're going to go through why we think these are the best recommendations, and then we will come back to this. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Vitier, our safety officer, and he will update the board on the San Bernardino County actions to date. Next slide, please.
What does IMT stand for?
Incident management team. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Apologize.
Thank you, Dr. Menares. Good evening, board. So I'm going to provide you with just an update on where we're at on the COVID front and where we're at on personal protective equipment. So we currently have a large shipment coming in from the California Office of Emergency Services. It's being sent to county schools, and then it'll be distributed out to the local school districts. There's a delay right now in county schools receiving that. So we anticipate having a date known on the 3rd of July as to when we're going to receive the shipment. With that, there are also back-ordered items that are scheduled to arrive. So as you can see, as we know, there's a nationwide shortage and nationwide need for personal protective equipment. What we know we're going to be getting are about 250,000 face coverings for staff and students, hand sanitizer for all the schools, and face shields. And on our local front, our logistics team through the incident management team is constantly pushing through purchase orders so that we can keep our own supplies coming. But again, we're fighting with the rest of the jurisdictions that are trying to get the same equipment. So currently on the county level, as it relates to COVID, we heard a presentation, met with the interim director of public health, Corwin Porter, yesterday. And they are at surge in most hospitals or hitting surge capacity in most hospitals. The cases are going up. I believe today, preliminarily, we're having the highest day today within the county of positive cases. They're attributing this to a laziness in wearing face coverings, the holidays that have come and are coming, protests that have gone on, and just a general lax in folks wanting to wear their face coverings. So we're all watching that. We're seeing that very clearly. They did share with us that the city boundaries within the city of San Bernardino are within the highest level of cases in the county. So we know it's a dense population, a lot of testing going on, so they're seeing a lot of positive cases. There are 169 confirmed cases in school-age children. And what we've asked public health to do is, and we've sent them our GIS file so that they can look at our school district boundaries in particular and provide us more accurate data as it relates to our school district. And then Department of Public Health is building a school-based toolkit that's going to come out by the end of July. That's really going to help all the school districts within the county and kind of be a repository for information. And so, we're waiting to see what that looks like, see how we can contribute to it. We've done a lot of great work being the largest school district in the county. And so we're doing a file share with them to see how we can help our neighboring districts and also what we can get from them as well. And then on the internal front, we've established an internal contact tracing team. So what we found is that many of our employees are getting their results back from their doctors and coming to us and saying, I've got a note from my doctor says I'm positive, and what do I do? And so what we've done is established protocols and a team that will do the contact tracing in-house so that we can determine what the scope and impact of any of our schools is going to be, what the scope and impact of any of our administrative departments is going to be, who needs to know if we need to shut a facility down or if it simply needs to be cleaned. But it allows us to do it more in-house. And San Bernardino County Department of Public Health has been a great partner in that and provided the training and the guidance for our internal team so that we make sure they're getting the information they need, and at the same time we're getting it as well to protect our community. And so as you'll see on 3A there, our team so far has investigated 23 staff cases and 11 student cases. Only 4 of those came back actually confirmed. So you have a lot of fear of potential exposure, and that's where the contact tracing team is going to be very helpful to backwards map where somebody's been.
I wouldn't say only.
Madam President, I'd like to say something.
I'm gonna let him, he's gonna finish through this one because it goes into the education trailer bill. So I'm gonna go into the chat.
Yeah,
Eric,
next
are you
slide.
there? One more slide. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry, hit the wrong button. David, next slide, please. Thanks. And team, this is a slide that Corwin Porter, the interim director of public health, shared with the board of supervisors. It just shows the rise in cases, and the persons, PUI stands for persons under investigation. So that's folks that they're waiting on results back. But you can see where there's alert and action levels, and those were set forth by the state. So as you see the state engage counties with rolling back stay-at-home orders or closing of businesses and establishments, it's really the actions and alert levels that are going to cause that. So I just wanted to show that slide there. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, board, it's gonna go into the trailer bill. So I want to pause right here. Mr. Tillman, was your questions in the first portion?
Yeah, I can ask the ones I have right now.
Okay.
And I just want to say, I know he didn't mean any negative by it, but when Mr. Vatier said only 4 were confirmed, when anybody getting coronavirus, I wouldn't call it only, because for some people it could be a real bad experience.
Right.
But Mr. Vatier, how many people do we have doing contact tracing?
We have a team, so it's an expandable team as we need it. Right now, we're getting small numbers of cases that we need to trace. We're probably getting 1 or 2 a week that they need to work on. The team is up to 10 people, but we really only have 2 or 3 that are doing the tracing as we speak, because our population is small right now with being closed.
And when we come back, is there a number in terms of how many we'll need?
No, we don't know that yet. We're going to be closely watching that and then having the continual dialogue with public health. We know on the public health side, they are aggressively training contact tracers. And so, we'll be doing the same on our end as needed. But really, it's a public health function. We're just trying to make sure that we're capturing what we need to do as an employer on our end. So we'll build that out as we see fit.
And let me be real frank, Bob. The reason why I asked that question, I've been with the county for 40 years. And the one department I've told people not to work for is public health, because they don't have any money, and they've never had a lot of money. So I'm sure they never expected something like this to happen. And I'm sure they're ramping up now to find funding. But I know it's going to be a problem for public health to be robust, because it's never been robust in the county. So I would recommend that for critical items and things that are needed, that we find ways to augment and supplement what the county's public health is going to do. And that's the reason why I asked the question about the number of people that are doing contact tracing, because if and when we do open and have people back on campus physically, that's going to be a key component. You know that better than I do. So I think as you start to get more real information in terms of how many teachers are going to be back on campus and how many students, there's got to be some type of matrix that says, based on that, you need X amount of people to do contact tracing. I'm here in the county, and when we've had people identify COVID positive, I haven't been contacted by anyone doing contact tracing. And so I know we should have been, because it's in this building. And I haven't had anybody, call people or say, did you talk to this person? How much time did you spend? So we don't have a robust contact tracing in terms of public health right now. I know the people who've been through the training, who work for other departments, but they haven't been employed to do contact tracing. And today, the county had their biggest hit. 753 cases were reported just today. So it's definitely a spike. In terms of the face covering, you said we're getting 250,000. But how many do we need?
A lot more than that. So what we're looking at doing, what they're providing us is 2 cloth face coverings and 2 disposable face coverings, which we know those disposable ones won't last a day. And so what we're looking at on our end at a local level, meaning school district level, is mass purchasing of cloth face coverings so that we can issue them to our students and to our employees, so that they have, just like any other piece of garment clothing, that they can take home, launder, and reuse. The disposable ones are good for one-time visits, but they're just not sustainable, and everybody's trying to get them at the same time.
And here's the fear I have. We have to have an idea of the amount of PPE that's necessary to open safely. You have to give us what that number is. You have to tell us the items that are back ordered, and that should help drive when we think we'll have people back on campus and how many people we can facilitate having back on the campuses. And that's what I've been saying all this time. That alone will drive when you can open, because I know no one is going to suggest that, for instance, we know we only have enough masks to last a month, but we're going to open anyway, or we don't have certain PPEs are back ordered. So we have to have the discussion, and that should factor into these dates you guys are talking about. It would be nice and it would be nice to know that you picked September the 28th because someone met with Eric Vatier and he said that all the PPEs are going to be in and we'll be ready to go. Am I wrong to assume that?
Mr. Tillman, we will not open unless we have all of the items actually physically in district. So we have the numbers of what we need to order. The IMT team has what, they know what we need. We just are now ordering them, but we can assure you we will not open. That's why it's a tentative date until we have everything. So
and I appreciate that, Dr. Bernard, but the question I'm asking to Eric is, are you going to have all your PPEs in by the September 28th date?
That's unknown at this time, Mr. Tillman. It's a moving date. Originally, even the state cache of equipment that was supposed to arrive, we were told earlier in this current month that it would be here, and it has yet to even be shipped. So it's a moving target, and we're in constant communication with Cabinet, and they're in constant communication with you to move those dates as we see fit. But we're saying the same thing, and we understand exactly what you're saying to make sure that the stuff is in-house and deployed to the schools. So there's another piece of it once we get it in the warehousing of counting it, getting it out to the families and to our employees too.
Well, I think too would help if we knew the equipment that you had concerns about, because Mr. Gallo has all those airplanes and stuff in his office, I see, and he has a lot of contacts, and other people on the board do too. Because if we know what the items are that we need, then we can all work to try to find ways of getting those items. It doesn't help us to not know. I hope other board members agree. The sooner we know what items we're short of, then we can all work to get those items. And I think the worst thing to do is to put a date out like September the 28th, and you're saying already you're not sure you can meet that date. When we put dates out there, it should be dates that are there with some type of confidence that we know that we're going to have all the equipment in place at the campuses, all the splash guards where they should be in the areas where it's high traffic, and all your PPEs. And I only know the part about the splash guards because I work for the county. We have risk management come in. Risk management did walkthroughs through buildings and said, you can't bring back X amount of employees until you have splash guards up on certain areas. If you don't have the 6 feet of distance, but once you got that information about your building, then you could easily determine when you can bring all your staff back. It's no different from the schools. So it should be easy to say whether or not you have an idea that September 28th date is realistic based on how much modification we have to do to the sites, how long it's going to take to do it. Because just like you said, there's a lot of people trying to get PPEs. There are also a lot of people putting out demand that have work done to upgrade their sites from those same type of companies. So I just would ask that in the future, when we put a date out there, that we be transparent and say, this is our date, and we think we're in line with having everything needed to open on that date in terms of all the safety equipment and modifications. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Tillman, we do believe that 2 months after school starts, we can have everything in place. The one piece, and it is out of our control, is the items arriving. But we believe that 2 months preparation, assuming everything goes well, is plenty of time. There's other factors such as transmission rates rising that would stop us anyway, even if we were ready. But we believe 2 months is sufficient time.
Well, I mean, Eric has alluded to, there are certain supplies that are back ordered.
They are.
And normally back order can mean months. And usually back order, they'll tell you it's back order for 3 months. So is there an item that is back ordered past September the 28th? Eric.
Yeah, I'll have to look at each item that we're ordering to kind of get those dates on it.
But that's my point though. You can't say, I feel confident that it's going to be September 28th if he knows already there's an item that's back ordered. Then we should have a discussion. If there's an item, whether it's masks, whether it's hand sanitizer, whether it's wipes, and he knows already that's back ordered till December, then he should say that. I hate to say it because Mr. Gallo doesn't like talk about all my occupations, but I should work in a warehouse. So I know when things are back ordered, they tell you it's going to take a long time to get, and usually they're right. So we should at least start with that and have an open conversation that, you know, this is the date, but we know hand sanitizer is back ordered until January or February. And then tell us that. And then we have to make the decision, are we going to open without hand sanitizer? Thank you.
And we'll get you that information, Mr. Tillman.
Thank you. Ms. Rosales Medina.
All right, thank you so far for the presentations. I do want to clarify, it was mentioned with the protests and everything else that's helped, that's increased. But the reality is that when I was looking at another report showing that it was not necessarily the protests, but more or less the people that are organizing at their homes through parties, through so forth, restaurants that are not mandating people entering their restaurants with a mask, they're without a mask. And so, and we could see who these individuals are. I've been to many places with my mask, and many, you would imagine, elderly, and they're either protesting, I'm not sure what it is, they're not wearing their masks at the grocery store. So I honestly believe that right now we're in the second wave, and we have to make sure, as Mr. Tillman mentioned, be prepared. I've never in the past, the first time that the first wave came, I wasn't really directly impacted with family. It was more about friends, family members, but now it's close. And so the thing is that it's not just my family, there's many other families. As you see 4 cases that you said you had only 4 cases, I see that number growing, really fast, high numbers growing really fast. And the way everything's going and the way people feel privileged in the sense that they're not wearing their masks, making sure that they're using their American rights of doing what they want to do. But the reality is we're putting ourselves in danger, we're putting our children in danger, and we're putting our community in danger. So my thing is making sure that we are addressing the fact that those numbers will rise in the school district. And although those children, because I was talking to someone earlier with regards to children 10 and under, and I don't know if you have that, Eric, Mr. Batir, with regards to the younger children are not able to transmit it, or if so, I know they're going to send me a report. But at the end of the day, the older children are, if that's true, the older children can go home and transmit it to the rest of the family. And we know that in many homes there are those that are really sensitive with their either with their lungs, the elderly, and cancer. There's so many things that can make things really bad if we don't really look at this the right way. So I just wanted to make sure I noted that.
Thank you. And Dr. Flores?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Monades and Eric. Appreciate the information. I also, Mr. Tillman, you make really good statement about the health, the county health department not having sufficient funds. And I did go on the website today, and I just want to update everybody. The 0 to 14 ages has the largest number of positive cases, 639 kids. And the next highest is 15 to 19. So, and Out of the deaths, as of yesterday, the positive cases of yesterday, the total deaths are 48.6 Latino and 4% are Black. The rate of doubling, in other words, the rate of the cases doubling is 19 days, whereas in Riverside County, it's 26 days. So our susceptibility to COVID is very high. And so, when Danny says, do we have enough, PPEs? I mean, that's minor compared to, the precautions that we have to take in terms of our kids. Right now, there's only 20% ICU beds available in our county. 20%. About 37% of ventilators are being used. And I didn't get the raw data as to how many ventilators we have, but I couldn't find it, but that's scary. It's really, really scary. And
Riverside County's at capacity.
Right, is it a capacity? Well, there's only 20% left, and so we're close, and so we really have to be vigilant. And I do concur with both of my colleagues and all of my colleagues that we just have to make decisions that, will protect the safety and lives of our children and our employees. And, and of course, all of this is volatile as we move. It's very fluid, and we can prepare all we want. But, when it comes down to it, our lives matter more. Our lives matter more. And I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I am going to protect and be very protective of course, my family, but I consider all the kids our family. All the parents, our family in our district. So I just wanted to make that statement. But anyway, thank you for all that you're doing. And I know it's very difficult, but we as a board need to make sure that we make decisions that are based on the safety and health of our kids and our parents. So thank you, and our community. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And thank you again, board, for your comments. It's kind of broken up on our PowerPoint. So if there were any other questions on the top portion of what we covered, we definitely want to cover those. And thank you for, as everyone can see, the board is being very diligent about capturing information. But again, the information is ever changing. And so that's part of what we kind of shared and why we're repeating some things. And this is also for our public to be able to see the precautions that we're taking is not taken lightly. These numbers are real, and we want to ensure and separate the two and make sure that everyone knows that August the 3rd is one date. And I even cautioned before, the second date is the second date, but it's all based on safety parameters and making sure that everyone will be coming back in a safe environment. But everyone, as someone mentioned, is trying to do the same thing, trying to get the same supplies, trying to do everything. And who knows what's going to happen down the road. But safety is the primary thing that we are wanting to make sure we do. So now we're going to go into the education trailer bill portion of the presentation.
Thank you, David. All right, so board, you're aware that the California legislature just passed this trailer bill, and the governor has just recently approved it. I believe yesterday was when the governor approved it. Yes, yesterday was when the governor approved it. The legislature passed it a week, maybe 5 days ago. And so the language bill explains that the district shall offer in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible. So that should be our goal. But if we offer distance learning, we can offer it under two circumstances. One, as a result of an order or guidance from the state public health officer or the local public health officer. So for San Bernardino, that would be the San Bernardino Public Health, whom we spoke with yesterday. Or we may often offer distance learning for pupils who are medically fragile or who would be put at risk coming into a physical space. So the goal of the trailer bill is to offer in-person instruction. However, we just heard from Eric that in our district, we have increased rates of transmission right now, and we have increased rates of school age cases. And so as a result, and in speaking with County Public Health, they were in agreement with us that for San Bernardino City, the safest opening of school for August 3rd would be to stay in distance learning, and they would be in support of that. Next slide, please. Now, the trailer bill also speaks to some parameters around what school districts must do this coming school year, whether we offer in-person, and in-person can include and does include a blended model where some days are in person and some days are distant or virtual, or whether we offer a distance learning model. We must include these 5 elements. And this was not in the shutdown orders that took place in the springtime. So this is new, and this will help strengthen our instructional program in the distance learning model and or in a hybrid model. We must offer 180 days of instruction, whether it's in person, virtual, or a blended. We must document daily participation of our youth, whether again, they're participating in person or in a virtual manner. And a student who does not participate in virtual learning would be marked absent for the school day. And so we heard a parent call in and do a public comment on that question or that part of this trailer bill. Again, the trailer bill was just approved yesterday. The details of what this will look like in practice will still be worked through. We're just sharing with you what the trailer bill includes. The third element or parameter is that we have to have weekly engagement record documenting of participation of an offering of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. So board, you'll recall synchronous instruction is when the teacher is live with a class in a virtual setting. Asynchronous is where work could be posted into a Google Classroom and students can go in there and gather the work and do it on their own. So we now have to have weekly engagement record of offering both. That is also new, whether we do that in distance, or I'm sorry, in person or in a distance learning model. The district, number 4, districts must develop a written procedure for what they're calling tiered re-engagement strategies for students that miss more than 3 days of school in 1 week's time. So the trailer bill is requiring every school district to have a plan for how they're going to re-engage any student that is absent on a regular basis. We do not have that outlined yet. Again, this was just approved yesterday by our governor, but we were working on some of that when we went into the shutdown in the spring. So we have some work around that. We will be able to further augment that and be ready for when we open the school year. And then finally, the trailer bill says, again, whether instruction is in person, in a distance learning model, or in a blended model, that schools must regularly communicate with the parents about their children's academic progress. So all of these parameters are put into the trailer bill, and we will need to have plans in place on how we're going to approach this once school opens. Of course, we'll be doing this in collaboration with our teacher unions and our principals, because they will be the ones who will be monitoring this at a school level. Next slide, please. Finally, the trailer bill does give us parameters on if we open it or if we go into a distance learning model, what must we have in place? And so we must ensure that we have access for all students to connectivity and to devices. We must ensure that our quality and rigor of grade level instruction is equivalent to in-person instruction. We must offer supports both academically and mental health supports for identified students who we know need additional help. We must make sure that the IEP goals and accommodations for our special needs students can be executed in a distance learning format. We must make sure that designated and integrated instruction of English language development for our English learners and assessment of English language proficiency can also occur in a distance learning format. And finally, the trailer bill outlines that daily interactions, and they define interactions as the instructional time, progress monitoring or test assessment of students, or connecting with students, some kind of school connectedness activity, happen on daily between certificated employees and students. And so again, if we're going to offer distance learning, it must have these 6 parameters in place. When we went into our shutdown in the spring, we had all of this in place. Now we have the opportunity to improve upon. And so I want to thank Dr. Mitchell and his leadership and the educational services team. We are very well poised to take everything that we did in the spring and further enhance and improve our instructional model of distance learning. There's actually a survey that's already out with our teachers right now, asking them what they would need in order to better offer distance learning for this next school year. And we have over 1,600 teachers who have already responded. So we're well poised board to be able to offer distance learning and meet the outline and the parameters of the educational trailer bill that was just approved by our governor yesterday. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mitchell to share where we are with our devices.
And if I can pause for a moment, Dr. Mitchell, Mr. Tillman, we're going to shift into the device readiness. Did you have
My
a
question? I'll wait to the end of the presentation.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Dr. Mitchell, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Dr. Menarez. So, board, we're happy to report that the district is ready to support distance learning for all of our existing and new students for school reopening. As you recall, we stressed in our team to continue our work through the spring and through the summer in anticipation that we would start in distance learning. And so we've, the educational services team alongside the other divisions have been constantly revamping our scope of sequences and our curriculum guides to support distance learning going through January. Our teams will continue to work as though we would need to be prepared for the whole year if need be. And so from a device standpoint, you see here that as of Friday, we had we had 9,000, a little over 9,000 new students to our district. You'll see the breakdown there between TK and 1 and then grades 2 through 12. In terms of our return devices and repaired devices, we have 6,100 devices ready and for redeployment. We have 6,800 devices that were purchased by our schools in the springtime. And then we had an additional 2,300 devices purchased by IT in the spring. That gives us over 15,000 devices ready to deploy to new students in our system. And as you know, we have new students enrolling every day. Currently, there are 9,000 of them. And then in support, as we showed the board a couple weeks ago with our refresh and replenish plan, part of our replenish plan, which was to replace the 30,000 plus devices that we gave out in the spring, board, we committed to purchasing another 30,000 devices this year, and then 10,000 devices ongoing to refresh the devices, the technology devices available to students at schools. You'll see that we have an order in right now that we're putting in actually tomorrow for over 3,600 iPads and 11,000 Chromebooks. And these orders are based on feedback and input from our school leaders. And so the board, we want you to be assured that from a device standpoint, the district is poised and ready to ensure that all of our students have access to a technology device to support their efforts in distance learning, as well as our staffs as well. I want to make sure that you also understand these devices also cover our teaching staff as well. Thank you. Next slide, David. Ms. Christakos will give us an update on our hotspots.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Board, you're aware we have several vendors that actually we have hotspots and Khajiits. And there was a concern raised, I think, by Mr. Tillman last board meeting about the data running out on some of the Khajiits. And this chart shows the number of hotspots in use and then the ones that reach their daily limit. We have an agreement with the vendor that the data will now be pooled, so this will not be a concern moving forward. And again, anytime a family, if there's an issue, if they need support, to call CyberTech if something comes up, and also IT is here to support our staff, and these are the phone numbers to reach. And that's it. Next slide.
So board, in addition to assuring you that we have the technology and the connectivity, the devices and connectivity, you also asked that we gather information from our workforce and from our parents. And so we had every intention of having everything ready to go out today for our questionnaire. And then after looking at the survey, we wanted to make sure that it was as user-friendly as possible for our families. And so we reworked the paper survey, and so that took more time, unfortunately, but in the end, we believe it'll provide us better data and make it easier for our families. So each family is going to get a survey by student for each one of their children, where everything is filled in with the exception of them selecting distance learning or a blended model for the next school year. For families that are ready to go online and give us that input digitally, that survey is now out. Yes, there was a glitch. We're glad we caught it early enough, so that glitch is now taken care of. So there's a survey that's being, or a questionnaire that's posted on our Enrollment and Placement Center website that's going to be pushed out through social media. And it is that same survey that is, or questionnaire, that is going out with a letter from Dr. Volkamer to all of our families with each one of their children ready to go, and they can just fill it in and return it to the Enrollment and Placement Center. We're giving them envelopes. Again, we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. We want all of that data back by June 13th. We're saying it's going to be mailed out by July 6th. We have to work within some business days and some of that. It could be earlier, but that would be the latest. And we want our families to get us that information. But again, any family who is ready to give us that information and comfortable going online and doing that, please do so. And then you do not need to return the questionnaire to us. Once we get that data, then we will have that put into our student information system, and we will be able to then give the reports to our schools as to any family that might be missing data. And we're asking our schools to then follow up on those individual families. So we're collecting it at a district level first, then missing information we will be giving to our schools and asking them to finalize that information so that we have it by a school level, because ultimately that's where the data needs to get to. In terms of our workforce, we have a questionnaire that is also going to them. HR has emailed that to the employees today. We're asking that the employees have that completed and returned, or have that completed by July 7th. And if they did not get the email, then Human Resources will also be placing it on their website. So we are gathering the input from our 50,000 students, from our families, as well as from our 7,000 plus employees, to find out where they are in terms of their preference, and that then we'll be able to do that matching that we've been wanting, that we need to do in terms of who wants to do an extended distance learning if and when we're ready to go into a blended model, and who is fine with the blended, both from an employee standpoint and from a family standpoint. Next slide, please. So these are the action steps that are currently in progress. I think it's just a one-click, David. Yes, it is. Okay, so we are continuing to draft that COVID mitigation plan. I know we're trying to set up a date with our board subcommittee to bring that board policy forward. We continue our communication with our county public health officials. Mr. Vitier is in probably close to daily communication with them, but you heard that Dr. Volker and myself also met with them, and so we will continue that communication. We entered into negotiations with SBTA, and we're going to continue with negotiations to get everything ready for whatever needs to happen for when we bring students back, whenever that might be. We've already started training our site leaders on the guidelines for reopening schools. We're breaking that into 3 phases, and so we're training them, and they are now getting school teams in place to make sure that whenever we open, that there is safety precautions in place, but also that team will be the one to help do the outreach to our families of any parent that did not complete a survey by a school level. So that's a very important team that is already up and moving. We're coordinating planning and the operational efforts with our incident management team. So that's the IMT. That is the work that Eric leads. And so we are in constant communication with IMT to move this work forward. We're continuing the development of a communication plan. Ginger Ontiveros is leading that work. And so we want to make sure that we're getting that information, timely information out to our community. And then we're coordinating with our local community childcare agencies, and that's being led through our student services. So these are the current action steps. They have not changed. We continue to work on that to move the work forward. And so next slide takes me back to the recommendations board. Click, please. So we are still recommending that we open in a distance learning model on August 3rd. And we're stating that if and when it is safe, that we offer opportunities for reconnecting in person with a focus on our youngest learners, our transition grades, or just children who need a bit more, and the school would determine that, but only if and when it is safe. And the if and when it is safe would be us coordinating with county health, monitoring our transmission rates, monitoring our positive cases, and then we would bring that forward to you board to say, this is what it's looking like, and here's the recommendation, or we would not move forward with it. And so the board would have the final decision on if we want any kind of in-person to start our year. As things start to get ready and we appear that we can move into a blended model, then we are recommending that we move into a blended model. And perhaps the board might want to take off September 28th and not have a date on there. Maybe the board would like to just have prepare school to enter into a blended model, and that we're ready whenever we see that the cases have dropped, maybe a vaccination is in place, whatever that might be. But that's another option the board might take for number 2 as we ask you to make decisions this evening. And then finally, we are recommending that if we go into a blended model, we still offer an extended distance learning option for the families who are not interested in sending their children to school in a blended learning model. So we do want to have options for our families. We will know specifically who those families are based off of the questionnaire once we get all that data in. And so those are the recommendations that we're asking the board to either accept, reject, or modify tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Menares. We have comments, Mr. Tillman, followed by Dr. Flores.
The first one is to Ms. Christakis on the item for the hotspots and the Khajiits. Actually, I was prompted to ask the question because a person from the public said that a 1 gig of data on the Khajiit only allowed for 45 minutes of per day for virtual class. Is that true?
Mr. Tillman, I'm getting to the notes. No, I believe it's higher than that, and it's a pooled data as well now. So let me.
Right. So then if it's pooled, then, and I guess it'd be nice if it's pooled with alerts, meaning that if it's pooled, the individual will never run out. And if we ever did run out of capacity, everyone will run out of capacity, right?
Yeah, we won't run out. So what Mike had shared with me, Mr. 2, is I'm trying to find the There's enough for 6 or 7 hours of instruction.
Per day?
Yes. And so what we're actually doing right now, and I hope I didn't misspeak, so I will make sure, we did do a BC that may have that in there, is that we're also working with another vendor that will have unlimited data and
Okay.
will also even be maybe even at a better price point.
Great.
So purchasing and IT is working on that as well. But I
Great.
believe it was higher than 1 gig, Mr. Tillman, and I'll get back to you on that.
Great, thank you. And I want to say, and I said it last time, this is a terrible situation. No matter what we do, it's going to be terrible consequences for a lot of people. But I think what puts it in perspective today, in the middle of the day, on my phone, I got a public, an alert at 2:01, and it's a public safety alert, and it said, per Riverside County Public Health, effective immediately, all brew pubs, breweries, bars, and pubs are closed until further notice. Within the city of Riverside, ICU hospital beds are at or near capacity. Protect yourself and those around you, wear a face covering, stay home, and avoid gatherings with people outside your household. And I think it's important to understand what that means. That means that if they have every bed filled and Mike falls off his bike again and has to go to ICU, there won't be a bed. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, and Danny, just for the numbers, 25% of those are COVID patients. The other 75% are Mike Gallo bike accidents or whatever, So
I say that to say we're all in this together. And in order to provide that capacity, the fewer people that contract the virus, and because the only way you can get to that period where you're ICU, and no one knows who's going to be admitted to ICU. We know it's older people, but other than that, there's no clue. If you're over 30 or 40 years old, you have the potential to end up in ICU. When school opens, I know school is open, and people are going to school because when I go to work, the freeway is stopped. So when the schools open up, you have more people interacting with each other. And that's all it takes to spread the virus. And I think once we understand that, it makes it clear that we have to work together, that when we do open up school and when we do slow down the freeways, that we don't speed up the virus being spread. And the only way to do that is to make sure we have all the PPEs and everything in place for social distancing to give it even a small chance of not having it rise as much. I watched some of the the Senate hearings this morning, and Paul, I can't think of it. Yeah, Rand Paul, I think it was. Senator Rand Paul, he said only 1% of preschool teachers were infected. He said only 1% of 100 is 1. And that means in our district, if we have 3,000 teachers, you're talking about how many people, 30 people who will be infected? To me, that's not only. And then if you say, well, only 1% of them die, that's only 1%. It's only if the one person that dies is not you. So I don't know how we can talk about this in terms of this being benign and no big deal. This is a big deal. But I do believe we're going to have to find a way to operate with the virus. Even Dr. Fauci said there's no guarantee you're going to find a vaccine. So I think we're going to have to find a way to live and operate as careful as possible to move forward. But that brings up another decision. You guys haven't talked about it. What are we doing about sports? What are we doing about the football season?
So, Mr. Tillman, I'm going to just make one comment and then turn it over to Lorraine. We're monitoring that very closely in terms of guidance, both from CIF and other sources. And so Lorraine can take us, if you have a couple minutes, through a quick look at a BC we have.
So thank you, Mr. Tillman, for the question. I'm going to share can I do that? I'm going to try to share. Can you guys all see this? I apologize. I can't see what you can see right now.
You make it a little bigger,
Sure.
Lorraine.
Sure. So Mr. Tillman, in response to the questions that we were hearing related to sports at the previous board meeting, the team that is part of the PDS, they're part of that larger team that Dr. Monades is leading. We have a team specifically that's addressing sports. And so we have been, using the CIF guidelines to determine what our guidelines would look like. But first and foremost, I want to make sure that we all keep in mind again that if and when it's deemed safe for us to do so, we will re-engage in sports. And what you'll see is the outlining of what that will look like if and when we're able to do that. And I also want to share that the CIF recommend parameters, but the real decision-making, the ultimate decision-making resides with our school board. So I want to make sure that our school board members all know and recognize that. And just remind everyone that this is part of a bigger picture as the PDS team starts to realize phases of implementation and phases of reopening our schools. The sports aspect will be part of those considerations.
Well, can I interrupt just because I hear what you're saying. I understand it's going to be on the board. My question is, so I'll try to drive the conversation. Are there informal talks about there being a football season? Or are the coaches having students practice? Is there a schedule that people still think is going to be fulfilled? There has to be talk out there, Dr. Volkemer, about whether or not folks are going to play this year. And there got to be folks coming to you, Dr. Volkemer, saying, is the board going to allow the football season? Because we're at the point where normally they would be having preseason games and scrimmages. So where are we at on the discussion or recommendation?
So the recommendation, well, Lorraine, I don't know if you want to go forward. I can share what the discussions have been. The ADs are monitoring this very closely as well. Right now, we would not be able to have football. It's a high contact sport. Kids are in close proximity. What we could do is have open conditioning types of workouts that allow coaches to talk about, game situations, et cetera, in a physically distanced manner. But it has to be very, very closely controlled in terms of safety. But in terms of having a football season, full schedule football season, that's not in the consideration at this point.
And well, I mean, it's the first I heard of it. So I'm assuming this is the first time that has been said publicly.
Correct. We're still in the. You asked a direct question. I tried to give you a direct answer.
And I appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we're cautious and keep safety in mind as we move this forward.
So the piece that I will share from the BC, it is how they're defining the sports that are considered a low contact versus high contact. So you can see that things like water polo, cross country, when and if we're able to, that's where we'll start. The more moderate to high risk you see are in phase 3, and those are things like football, basketball, wrestling, track. So Mr. Tillman, it will be some time before we are able to get to those the high contact sports. We will see things like what Dr. Volkemer described with conditioning start to take place as cases go down and it's deemed safe for us to do that. But there is no conversation around the high contact sports coming in too soon.
Well, let me just say that this is, were you going to say something, Dr. Volkemer?
I am, yeah. I can tell you that, Mr. Tillman, that CIF has designed different models for seasons occurring later in the school year, to the point where they're saying even after the winter recess, they could have truncated schedules for all sports. So let's just say that, by some stroke of luck, we have a vaccination, we go back to school full time. We could actually have between January and June, all fall, winter, and spring sports. but there would be fewer games, still be playoffs, still be CIF champions, all those types of things. But that would depend on the context of what the virus is doing. But they are prepared to do that if we get to that point.
Right, and I just encourage everyone to be patient and realize that we're all going to get through this together. And a year or two out of your whole life is not a long time, but this whole thing is horrible. There's no other way of explaining it. And we have to make some tough decisions. If you listen to the public comment tonight, you have people on both sides of it. I think what needs to drive it will be when we are prepared to open safety. So to your question, Dr. Menares, I think once you have all your PPEs in place, once you have your school set up, then you know you're ready to open up in a COVID-19 environment. And I think what should drive it, because I heard a lot of the public comment, and Mr. Gallo said it last time. And if Mr. Gallo said it, then you got everybody on board. And Mr. Gallo said last time that you're not forcing any teachers to come back to work, that you'll only come back to work if you want to come back to work. He's as mean as Mr. Gallo is, he's not going to ask somebody 69 and with diabetes to go and tell them they have to come back and teach, right, Mr. Gallo? And I'm just playing. I love Mr. Gallo, but we all.
You're right. That's right, Danny. Who's going to do that? You know,
we all agree that because legally you could say you have to come back to work, but we all agree that we're not going to even consider forcing a teacher to come back to work if they don't feel safe doing that. But I think in the end, that's going to be it's going to be a win-win, because you're going to always have some parents in this COVID-19 environment that don't want their kids at the school. So you match them up with the teachers who want to teach distantly, and you're going to have some teachers that are willing and want to come back to work on site, and you match them up with the students. But it's important to involve the parents too. I have to apologize to you because I kind of cast doubt on the half days, but even Dr. Fauci said half days might be good because you don't want to spend as much time at the site all day with the students. So, but I'm sure he didn't talk to the parents. So you have to make sure the parents are able to do that from a practical perspective. And the truth of the matter is, this is uncharted waters for everyone, and there is no one with the answers to every tough question. And in the end, this board is going to have to decide based on our staff, the community, the teachers, the parents, and the students' input on how we move forward. But I think we're taking all the right steps right now in terms of making sure that students get some type of education. And I agree, and I know Dr. Mitchell will agree, this is going to be different, because the last time we did distance learning, we told everyone, your grades won't be affected, they only can go up. This is different now. The state has said, this is real school, you will have grades, it will determine whether or not you'll pass to the next grade. So when we start distance learning on August the 3rd, it's just like regular school. Now that does two things. It tells parents that this is important. And I hear the parents yelling at me because I work here every day, and they say to me, how do you expect us to be at home and teach our kids? And I hear the parent tell me, I have a first grader. My first grader cannot turn on the computer himself and follow along with the teacher. If I'm not there, it's not going to happen. So I don't know how we're going to deal with that. A parent talked about latchkey kids, and they're right, because the one thing that is missing is there is not one person that is coordinating all of this. That's the sad part. Even our own governor, if you look at and the governor and the state legislature, they're telling folks to go back to work, but at the same time telling us it's okay to have distance learning. The two don't go together. If you're forcing, and at the county, they force all employees to come back unless you were over 65 or unless you were high risk. So what's supposed to happen with those employees' kids? There's a disconnect. So I just hope we all have patience and realize there's a lot of bad things right now, and the environment is not right for education. The only thing that this situation does is show what a great job and a great opportunity we had before COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Appreciate that. And Dr. Flores, I believe you have a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Tillman. Very well stated. And another aspect is asymptomatic carriers. We don't know, they may not show signs, but they're asymptomatic and they can infect us. So that's another factor. But I wanted to share with you something positive. I read a lot of research, and there's a group of researchers at Stanford and at Berkeley that are developing what they call Pac-Man to the rescue, CRISPR-based tech on cutting edge of COVID-19 therapeutics. And it's based on Professor Stanley Key's work and his team on bioengineering and chemical and systems biology at Stanford. And they have pioneered new technology that's called prophylactic antiviral CRISPR in human cells, or Pac-Man. In other words, these cells go in and change the DNA or the RNA of COVID viruses that are attacking our cells. So it's very promising. I'll send it to Karen, and Karen can give it to all of you. And it's really, really fascinating research. So, I mean, there is hope in the horizon. It's not a vaccine. It's a different way to remedy, COVID, and they're making great strides. So I'm really encouraged by that. So we have to have a little hope somewhere. This is just a little bit of hope by, bioengineering. I think Mr. Gallo would love that, right? As an aerospace engineer, this is now in the body, right? The bioengineering. And I'm fascinated by all this stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, just so that to give us a little hope that, yes, we're all in it together. Safety is our first priority. Our lives are our first priority. Everybody's lives are our first priority. But here's a little hope. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Flores. Dr. Hill, you're on mute. Unmute.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. I just had, number one, I just want to thank all of you up to this point with the presentation. It's been very enlightening and I'm sure received by parents, students, and staff. One of the things I hope we do as we talk about troubleshooting and things of that nature, there might be a cost to it. Could we get a magnet or something printed that we can put on the back of the Chromebook? I used to put things on the refrigerator door so you have access to it. We need something so that parents will have quick access. So if it's something that we can get out, either parents can pick up or we can make it available to the students when they do come on campus, just with all of this information. I think problem person. So you just want a troubleshooting sheet. And the other one I was wondering is with the public health being involved, and I know we have an interim person in charge now. Is there some kind of way we can partner with them to have them come on campus whenever we return? Just to look and kind of another way of giving parents, staff, and the rest of us a little more confidence that we are doing what we need to do and we're on the right path and what have you. I think coming from school people, it's good. And we know you're going to do everything you can to make sure all staff and students are safe. But I think a good validation if we could get someone from public health to also come out to also validate, you know, you're doing a good job, or we recommend you do A, B, and C, or what have you, if that's possible. And thank you. Just want to.
Oh, I apologize, Dr. Hill. Thank you for that. We actually, public health they've told us if we send them our plan, that they will take a look at it, they will give us feedback, and they will let us know if there's any missing pieces. So we will be doing that within the next few days just to make sure. We feel pretty good, but we will do that. And so we can ask them if they would be willing to also do the same thing in terms of a validation visit. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, is that it, Dr. Hill? Okay, thank you. And I believe the question was also answered in the chat for everyone to see that the new data limits is 8 gigabytes per day. So that's good. All right, if there are no other questions in reference to the presentation, we will move to our consent item. Item 5, I'm sorry.
President Rogers, there is a resolution there. We do want to get your very clear direction.
Oh, okay, let me go back.
There should be a resolution at the end of that.
So we do want, let's see.
Okay. I just want to say, Madam President.
Yes.
Just for the, I know Dr. Hill was mentioning having public health come out and look, but the department of the county that's doing the walkthrough to determine whether or not you have all the safety stuff would be more on a line like Eric Retier, which is risk management.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tillman. Okay, we have here for the 2020-21-20 year learning environment options, the board has confirmed, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Education confirms the 2020-2021 school year learning environments options.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Are there any other discussions?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes.
I wanted to address Danny's concern about a firm date. I don't see it in front of me. Is September 28th on there still?
The presentation that we just gave, I believe is in there, so we can.
So I wanted to ask Mr. Tillman, did you want to change that until it's safe?
Yeah, and that'll be up to Dr. Menard, but I agree. You can say that date if all PPEs and all modifications are made to the sites, and at the time they don't have it's safe in terms of the level of COVID in the community.
Yes, I apologize. I think we take out the step. Actually, maybe if we pull it back up so the board can see exactly what we're talking about. David, if you can pull that slide back up.
The 28th date that's in there, remove.
Yes. So
And
we
if I can make a quick comment while they're doing that, it does have tentatively, which means it could be September the 28th or December the 28th.
So whatever the board would feel most comfortable in terms of moving forward with an action, we can have number 2 read to say, prepare school to enter into blended model when deemed safe and approved by when deemed safe by district staff, school board, and county public health. And then maybe the board would feel comfortable moving forward with that, with number 2.
I would like that.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll keep meeting to and agendizing that as you get closer, it'll become obvious what the date's going to be.
Exactly.
Okay, board, so we will make those adjustments to the motion, okay? And if there's no other further discussion, is there any other? No? All right, Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo? Mr. Gallo, are you there? Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Thank you. Motion carried.
Mr. Gallo's smiling. He has to be there. Are you
Well, yeah, I see him in my face, but okay. Okay, we are now back at 5
He's on mute.
consent items. He is on mute. 5.1 amendment number 17 to the agreement with USR Corporation AECOM for $848,730.9 business services.
That's URS.
Is that you are okay? My eyes are going together. You are right. URS Corporation. All right.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, he's back. It's been moved. And second, is there any discussion? If so, take yourself off mute if I see your mouth moving. Okay, great. Okay, I will go ahead and take the vote. Dr. Wyatt?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Dr. Flores?
Aye.
Mr. Gallo?
Aye.
Mr. Tillman?
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina?
Aye.
And Gwen Rogers, aye. All right, thank you. Motion carried. We are now at our action items. 6.1, adoption of the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Great, it's been moved and properly second. Is there a discussion? Great, okay, so Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
Dr. Flores.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
Ms. Rosales Medina.
Aye.
And Ms. Gwen Rogers. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. 6.2. COVID-19 Operations Written Report, LCAP Educational Services. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion? If not, we will take the vote. Ms. Rosales Medina.
Aye.
Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
Dr. Flores.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Motion carried. Thank you. 6.3, mileage and cell phone amounts fiscal year 2020-2021 business services.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there a discussion? All right, Ms. Rosales Medina. Dr. Wyatt.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Dr. Flores, yes.
Aye.
Mr. Gallo.
Aye.
And Mr. Tillman.
Aye.
Gwen Rogers, aye. Thank you. Motion carried. All right. And before, I know we are at 7.0 and at our adjournment, and we definitely want to thank our audience for being with us. And someone shared something with me, so I'm going to read it. I think this is nice. It says, children are not a distraction from the more important work. They are the most important work. And that is exactly what we are doing here as we meet continuously. It's as one wise person said, it's all about the children. And we know everyone is important. But I do want to say, as we start talking about, and the board members can join me, I saw a gentleman on the phone call earlier. I hope he's still on here, Dr. Mitchell. Is he somewhere in the chat? I want to say to Dr. Mitchell, I appreciate everything that he has done for San Bernardino City Unified School District. He has really built some model programs that are here that are going to be long lasting. And as I say, we know everyone can't always stay together forever, but I know when I came on the board, he was here prior to me even being on the board. I was a parent that was always in his ear as well, but was learning. And I can attribute the work that he did made a difference in my children who went through the San Bernardino City Unified School District and are doing well. And so, Dr. Mitchell, there you are. I want to tell you that I appreciate you. I want to personally congratulate you. I know you will be leaving us within one day and starting a new journey, but congratulations to you. We wish you well and much success. Any other board members?
I would.
Yes.
I'd like to say congratulations, Dr. Mitchell. and thank you for your work. I was here when you first came, and you were always chomping at the bit to get your hands on the education curriculum, and you always had a vision of what you could do, and you truly proved yourself. And so I just want to say thank you on behalf of our district and the students that benefited from your expertise. There's been a lot of change since you've been here, and you definitely have taken us to another level. And I know there were a lot of times that I got on your nerves and you wanted me just to shut up and do what you told us to do. But in the end, I think it was
a lot of people would fall in that category.
I think we had a great relationship, and I appreciate all the work you did, and congratulations on your position of Superintendent, Dr. Mitchell. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Dr. Wyatt is in the screen. They're actually being formal for you in these comments. So Dr. Wyatt, he's actually in the comments. So go ahead, Dr. Wyatt.
Well, Madam President, I think we owe being very formal to Dr. Mitchell. And first of all, congratulations, Keenan, great job. And so proud of you and just beyond happy for you. We know you're going to do an amazing job up there in Adelanto. They're very lucky to get you. Couldn't be at a better time. I know you're going to move the dial there just like you moved the dial here. You know, you spent a lot of time with us here in San Bernardino, and I want you to know that you're greatly appreciated. You've done an absolutely amazing and outstanding job of creating opportunities for our staff and our students. And as we've seen over, the last few years, that there's been incredible success here at San Bernardino State Unified School District, and I know you're at the core of that. And I know you've been a leader even amongst our folks in the executive cabinet. And thank you also for the tutelage and counseling and the advice and encouragement you've given me as a professional. I greatly appreciate you, and I know I'll be reaching out to you often. And again, congratulations and many blessings to you and your family as you move forward with your career. Thank you again.
Mr. Gallo.
Yes, thank you. Keenan, you're leaving a big legacy here and also a big hole, I gotta say. I remember when you first initiated, several of the programs, including their rounds, institutional, these rounds in classrooms, instructional rounds. And I remember a lot of people commenting on that said, that is the most constructive guidance that they've received, and they really like that format. That was, I know, one of those things that we're going to want to continue here in this district as well. And I know you've always been very responsive to the sometimes out of the blue and crazy ideas that 7 board members might have and put you through, but you've always looked at the kids first. And does this program or whatever advocacy role that any one of us as board members might play, is it good for kids? And that's always the first question that you've asked, and I really appreciate that. And it means a lot. It means a lot to this district. It's why you were part of a great leadership team. We're going to miss you, and I'm sure you're going to be creating an even greater leadership team wherever you go. So congratulations, Tina.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Appreciate that.
You bet.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate you, Keenan. Just like Danny, we've tangled, but in the end, I won. No, we both won. And I really appreciate all your work. Your leadership on the African American Task Force, on the Latino Task Force. I know your heart is there for our kids and our teachers. And I also too appreciated the instructional rounds. That was innovative, very, very, very good. And also your support of our English language learners. That meant a lot to all of us. And you now are going to Adelanto, and I think you got boot camp with us as board members. So given all the diversity, I think you'll fare well with your new board.
Thank you, Dr.
Congratulations.
Dr. Hill.
Thank you. Dr. Mitchell, I'm just going to ditto everyone else has said. We hope that we have been one of the best boards that you've worked with, and hopefully we taught you a lot. So when you get to the high desert, you're going to remember all of us and all the comments that everybody else is making and say, oh, that reminds me of so-and-so. And that's okay, because we had a great time. We learned from you. We know that our graduation rate is not only, but you were certainly influential in that being what it is today. And we certainly won't go without giving you credit for that. And all the other things that you did for all students. You were in this district, and so appreciative. We wish you well, and just if you need us, give us a call, and hopefully you will come our way if we need you. So just want to say, give them the best. You're going in an area where they really need you, and I appreciate you. So good luck to you, and stay in touch. So when you leave tonight, don't change the cell phone number. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hill.
And I'm going to, Mr. Tillman, I'm gonna get back to you, but let Ms. Rosales Medina go, and then I'll come back to you.
All right, I too want to echo what everybody has been saying, and Dr. Mitchell, and there has been moments, and as Danny and Dr. Flores mentioned, we didn't always agree on certain things, but you were always there to explain to us in detail, at least for me in detail, some of the things I didn't understand fully. And I know you're gonna go to a district that's also challenging, but I honestly believe that our district kind of prepared you for the challenges that you will see over there. And it will be like, honestly, it's probably going to be something where you're going to excel beyond means, and that's going to be your next growing point there. So I just want to say congratulations. You are a wonderful person, and your values regarding equity, regarding all the issues pertaining to our marginalized communities is there. So thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you, Abigail.
Absolutely. Mr. Tillman, again.
Yeah, and I wanted to say thank you and congratulations to another person that's leaving, and that's Linda Bardier. And I think her last day is this end of this month, right? Is she gone already?
She's already
gone.
She left.
Yeah, well, she can go. She's the communication person. She can come back and hear. But thank you to Linda, for everything you've done in communication. You've been fabulous. I can't even think of all the things that Linda has done in terms of getting the word out to parents and students. That's made a huge difference and been beneficial to so many parents and students in our community. So thank you to Ms. Bardier. We're losing two great ones this month. And thanks again, Dr. Mitchell.
Absolutely, and we'll be doing a formal kind of at our regular board meeting for our retirees as well. Dr. Volkmer, I know I jumped the gun, probably wasn't looking at all my notes, but
okay.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, President Rogers. So much has been said that is so true, and I want to echo just a few of those things about Keenan. I've been on executive cabinet for 21 years, and you don't get people that stay too often as long as Dr. Mitchell has. He came on board as our assistant superintendent of student services. I remember vividly moving through the hiring process with him. He immediately went to work on our suspension rates and our expulsion rates and programs to support our kids, and made huge changes. And we're still benefiting from those changes in our district, and our kids are certainly benefiting from them. And then, as someone mentioned, when our assistant superintendent of educational services left, he was like in her chair before she was even out of it. And he has such a strong passion for teaching and learning. And it's really, really what he's all about. It's really with mixed emotions that we watch him go. It's been a joy to work with him. I will miss personally our deep conversations about deep issues like race and bias and how to best educate kids. I will miss the laughs completely. As you know, Dr. Mitchell has a world-class laugh. I can't imagine next week with cabinet without hearing that laugh at least some point. And you know, as educators, all we really look for in the end is, you know, were we able to make a difference? And I think, Dr. Mitchell, you can look back on your years in San Bernardino City Schools that you did make a difference for the kids here and the families in the community. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll miss you personally. We will miss you organizationally. And I look forward to seeing the great things you're going to do in Adelanto. And I'm always a phone call away, and you know that. Love to continue the partnership.
Absolutely.
And I texted him earlier. I said, we're going to give you the last word. And then I thought, what was I thinking?
Right. and Dr. Mitchell, you know, especially during the climate that we're in right now, the leadership that you've had on just making sure that our Black students, you know, had a voice and carving out some things that's now throughout the county. You know, when we look at that task force, you know, we will ever know that we were a part of that. And that was just history making. And it's so many things, but we just wanted you to know. We appreciate you. We know we're in a virtual world. I'd love to come up there and sit in the audience and laugh right now, but I guess I won't be able to do that. Make a public comment or two and say, hey, what are you doing? I'll have to wait until, you know, whatever. But, so is there any words of wisdom you would like to give us some direction before you go? Everything you wanted to say? No, not really.
Yeah, I do have a couple comments if you permit me, Madam President.
Yes.
So it's been my sincere honor and pleasure to work in this amazing organization for the past 9 years in service to the staff and students and parents in this community. I want to compliment the amazing work of the board. You have been consummate advocates for the organization, our students and families, and the broader community. The board's leadership has inspired me. It has fostered my growth and development as a leader. And for that, I want to say thank you, and thank you for placing confidence in me. It's a huge task to be given, and it was a huge honor, and I was humbled that you gave your confidence in me. I also want to thank Dr. Marsden for his amazing leadership, his model of excellence in leadership that he shared with all of us in cabinet. He allowed each of us in cabinet to use and develop our gifts, and also fostered an environment where each of us could use them and grow them. And so I want to thank Dr. Marsden for this. This accomplishment is in no small part I attribute to him and his leadership. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank my cabinet colleagues for allowing me to be myself. This was big for me. One of the things that I'm proud of is that I've always been able to grow in leadership and still be myself, and that's always been important to me. And so I also want to say thank you for letting me be myself while also helping me to grow. There were times that we literally laughed ourselves to tears, and there were times that we cried ourselves to laughter. And I just gonna miss those times with you all. I'm gonna stop. I'm trying not to break up here. They're messing with my tough guy image. I want to thank my student services and ed services colleagues that I've had the true honor to work with for the past 9 years. You know, leadership is funny. You're only a leader if people choose to follow you. And so I'm thankful for all the directors and support staff throughout both of those offices who have supported me over the years. And so I'm so proud of all the work that we were able to accomplish together. I learned how to lead by trying to keep up with an amazing staff. And so I give all the credit to everything that we've accomplished to the teams that I've been fortunate enough to lead. I also want to thank our site leaders and teachers. I'm so inspired by your dedication and commitment to your students and staff. And I just want to say what an absolute amazing group of staff we have in San Bernardino. I don't think that could be said enough, that this lift is only made possible because of the lift that our principals are engaged in, our site leaders are engaged in, our teachers in every classroom, and our teacher leaders, as well as our classified staff. We just have an amazing staff. And so I've been in other districts, and I have to say this is an excellent, high quality staff. And so I will miss this staff. And so I want to close with an experience that I had at All Red Child Development Center You know, Cabinet had a habit of conducting classroom visits, and so we were at All Red one day, and so Cabinet piles into this classroom of 4-year-olds. This little young man, little African-American boy, 4 years old. He put his eyes on me, and I don't know why, but he got up out of his seat and walked over to the door, squared his shoulders, looked at me in my eyes, and said, "Hey, who are you?" And he said it with such confidence and zeal. It actually was taken aback. Now Linda, she's joked with me over the years and said that little boy punked me, but so I want to admit that in front of Linda, but he did. And so I've reflected on his question over the years here in San Bernardino, who are you? And I finally am ready to respond to that young man if I can find him. But I want to respond collectively for our district that we are educators and that we are committed to his success as well as all the students here in San Bernardino. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to walk this leg of my path with you all. And I just wish you all the best. I'm a phone call away, and then my heart will always be in San Bernardino. So thank you all.
Congratulations, Superintendent Mitchell. Virtual hand. All right, everyone. Well, with that being said, with tears in our eyes, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Have we did 6.3?
Oh, yeah. Where are we at?
Okay, as long as we did it.
Yeah, we're 7 point. You scaring me, Danny.
Okay, just make sure we did it. Okay.
We voted. Okay, is that
So motion? So move.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you so much. And thank you again to our viewing audience. We will see you at our next board meeting. We appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
We're in this together.